Welcome back to A Better Impact, where we discuss eco-friendly tips and ideas. As an artist, I am an artist, in case you didn't know, but as an artist, I have to ask myself, can being an artist be sustainable? That's kind of a big question that I have to ask, and what we want to do here at A Better Impact is apply the idea of sustainability to all aspects of life. And I'm an artist, I want to apply the idea of sustainability to art. In terms of impact, we're talking about the reduction of physical waste when doing art. And I think this is a good topic for us to approach. So if you're an artist out there, maybe this can help you out in becoming more sustainable. I wanted to share with you guys my personal commitment to sustainability. I've been drawing since I was a kid, and I went to school for it. I took art classes in high school, but I'm ashamed to say that I didn't consider my impact up until a few years ago. I think us as artists can have a positive impact on the planet, whether it be through the message we put into our art or through the sustainable habits we adopt through making that art. There are a lot of trends in the art world, and through social media and maybe the fear of missing out or FOMO, we've been convinced that we have to use certain supplies or certain programs. There are trends in the art world, something like a certain type of pen or marker tends to be pushed onto people, and artists tend to think that they need to use these products. But what isn't taken into consideration is the impact those products have. So I wanted to consider mine and think of a few alternatives and habit changes that can have a better impact when being an artist in terms of the waste that we put out. One of the first things I took into consideration as an artist to have a better impact was switching from using so much paper or just drawing on paper to digital. We're talking about reducing our waste physically. Obviously, a sketchbook, paper, those are physical things that we put out into the world. And I wanted to reduce that and switch to something like digital art. I bought a tablet and I switched to digital art. That doesn't mean that you have to exclusively use a tablet or get rid of all your old sketchbooks. It means that you just have to reduce. Sometimes I sketch on my tablet just to get ideas together or just to get notes or to storyboard something, but I still use a sketchbook, but I try to make a habit of using every page. So I try to go, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I try to use every single page. You know, there's still some space in my sketchbook that I could be using, but if you're gonna switch to digital and still have a sketchbook here and there, just try and use the whole thing. I think that's a really good way to make the most of what you're putting out into the world. And as an artist, it's good to just have a nice full sketchbook, especially when you're showing it to people. But that was a quick one. That was an easy transition for me. It took a little bit of learning, but switch from physical to digital art is a good way to just reduce the amount of physical waste that you put out. I mentioned earlier the art trends that tend to go through the art community. One of the art trends that I participated in is the use of these micron pens. So this is the micron pens, and I used to love these, and they're still great. It's a great product, and these are fine line felt tip pens, and they come in different sizes in varying thicknesses. But what I found is that these run out of ink really fast, and I used about 1 million of them. So there's a mountain of these plastic pens sitting in the landfill. I wanted to reduce my physical waste. So this is something I really took into consideration, and I switched from using a micron pen to something like a what's called an inkwell or a dip pen. And that's one of these. Oh, whoops. And that's one of these. So you dip this in your inkwell, and I pour my ink into an inkwell, and you dip it, and you use this as your fine liner as opposed to something like those micron pens. And it takes a little bit of learning, but it's something that I had to get used to, but it's great. I can achieve any line weight and line variation through just pressure instead of swapping pens and having them run out and then creating this massive amount of waste through art supplies. I wanted to have something that I could reducing the amount of weight is important to me as an artist, and I was able to achieve the results that you get with a micron pen with making that swap to a dip pen. And here's an example. I drew this a while ago, but this is an example of an ink drawing I did with with a dip pen, not micron pen. So you can kind of get the same look. It does take a little bit of practice, but it is definitely achievable. So easy swap to make. Always consider the waste that you're putting out, at least in my case. And I tried to reduce that as best as I could. I think I was able to achieve a smaller and maybe a little bit of a better impact when considering the materials that I'm using. Another way as an artist that I consider my impact is purchasing used art supplies and buying art supplies secondhand. So for example, I bought some old picture frames at the thrift store and framed a couple of my pieces in those old picture frames, and they look pretty cool. You'd be surprised at what you can find at the thrift store if you don't have a secondhand specialty art store like we do. Shout outs to Scrap RVA. We've bought a lot of our art supplies from the used art supply store. So if you don't have either of those things, also a good idea is to maybe try the local buy nothing groups or the Facebook marketplace in your area, or even Craigslist. There's tons of used art supplies, and some of them are almost brand new. So pre-owned art supplies that you can purchase to reduce that waste that comes with buying brand new art supplies. So always consider the idea of buying secondhand. Chances are maybe that one thing you're looking for is out there. And it's happened, I've got lucky a few times, but it's always a good idea to kind of have that in the back of your head when buying new stuff. A while back, we donated a bunch of art supplies to Scrap, and we actually went back and we saw that people actually bought them. So if you have a lot of art supplies, artists tend to hoard art supplies they haven't used as maybe just in case, or just because we like to keep sort of things like that. But a good idea is to donate those unused art supplies so that they do get used and don't just become waste or get put in the landfill. In case you didn't know, things like paint, those can go bad. They can dry out, they can lose pigment. So if you know that you're not gonna use all the paint in your, I guess, supply, in your stash, consider donating something like that. Donate those art supplies if you're not using it. When it comes to sustainability, we've talked about borrowing things from your friends. I think I talked about borrowing a drill or something, but you can apply this to the art space as well. Borrow supplies from your friends, or better yet, take supplies off your friends' hands if they're not using them. So we had a friend who kind of like stopped doing art, and he gave us all his art supplies, and it was awesome. We used a lot of them, and it was great knowing that his art supplies didn't go to waste. So consider borrowing when having a better impact as an artist. Another way to have a better impact as an artist is to upcycle. We talked about upcycling a bunch, but as an artist, you can upcycle things into art. This is an old coffee cup, and we turned it into a planter, and I put a bunch of my art on it. I drew a lot of stuff, so check that out, super cool. And finding creative ways to upcycle things into art is a great way to reduce the physical waste that can come from your life and the art world. So always try to maybe get creative and upcycle. It's not too hard to do, and it can be really fun. So I guess what I'm trying to say is always consider your impact in every aspect of your life. In whatever hobby or niche, consider your impact. So my thing is art, and I'm trying to have a better impact as an artist. And as an artist, I like to use my skills to send a message. So me and Cassidy decided to write a book about being pretty much plastic free. And I illustrated this thing and Cassidy wrote it. So we wanted to use my talents as an artist and Cassidy's writing to send a good message out there. And it's always good to have art with a purpose if you're still trying to have a better impact. So check out our book. It's available on Etsy as well as a bunch of other online retailers. But we wanted to kind of share that with you and how we, even as an artist, can have a better impact. So pretty much plastic free, available now. Check it out, support us, it's pretty good. If you're an artist, suggest in the comments what sustainable habits you use when drawing or painting or illustrating. We'd love to hear them. I know we couldn't touch on every topic in this video, so I'd love to make this maybe its own series and talk about sustainable art. Throw them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening to me ramble about art, and I hope you guys can come back and see us next time. Deuces. Get out of here. Take it easy.